So, Luigi Esposito sat quietly in his study of the family estates in Bordeaux, Sicily, transfixed on the bank of TV screens before him, both disappointed and yet still delighted at the results of his handiwork. His initial outburst of anger at discovering most of his missiles had been destroyed was quickly replaced with a deep sense of relief when news reports start rolling in, and he discovered the extent of the carnage still inflicted. The new royal yacht, Queen Elizabeth III, was sunk. If only there'd been a higher loss of life, but at least he had the consolation of knowing that La Palma would be quarantined, while the asshole Guardians assessed the damage to the local coastline off the southern tip of the island went on. Port Torpig, although having been saved for the full effects of the detonation, would be closed to shipping while further safety and radiological checks were made. Causing mayhem to one of the most important trade routes on the planet was priceless. All in all, not a bad day's work. He couldn't believe there was a higher loss of life, but at least those who died would be a major cause of embarrassment to those idiots who put themselves on a pedestal. The collateral damage caused to the environment, trade and commerce would keep the knife twisting in their guts for a long time. And talking of twisting the knife, look at their plunging popularity in the polls. Oh, he was going to have so much fun ramming this down the throats of the council members in the New Year's meeting. Luigi decided to toast himself and his accomplishments again. Finding his glass empty, he rang the bell for a top-up and continued to gloat, firmly believing he was beyond accountability. When the door to his study opened a few minutes later, and Yanni, the housekeeper, came in with his favourite Black Pearl Louis XIII cognac on a silver tray, he insisted his old servant stay with him to drink to his success. "Come here, stay, celebrate with me. Good times should be shared with trusted friends." The gesture wasn't missed by Yanni. At $55,000 a bottle, this cognac was one of the most expensive you could find in the world, and he quickly poured a generous helping into 2 glasses. As he handed one to his boss, he paused momentarily to savour the bouquet of the blended flowers, the fruits, the spices, and the deep amber colour of the aromatic liquid. "You're looking particularly pleased with yourself today, young sir. Good news?" "Very best of news, Yanni. One that appears to be maturing with age," he said, without looking away from the screens. The old housekeeper tossed down his drinking horn and shuffled to stand deferentially behind his employer. He listened as yet more reports of the suffering caused by the missile detonations were announced. "That mess doesn't look like there's much to be happy about, sir. Surely that type of thing doesn't please you?" "Ah, Yanni, sometimes when you need to make a point, you have to capture your enemy's attention. You have to ensure they not only respect you, but fear you. And I'm pleased, because I've done just that. Wouldn't you agree, old friend?" When no reply was forthcoming, Luigi naturally assumed the old housekeeper must have been unable to hear his question. Turning in his seat, he felt a peculiar throbbing, a tingling sensation in his teeth and sinuses. I said, "Wouldn't you agree?" Luigi's voice choked up in his throat as he caught sight of Yanni's eyes. The distinctive, familiar, lazy old eyes of his long-time employee seemed to be undergoing some kind of metamorphosis. Gone was the steady-state glare, the unfocused faraway look he always seemed to display as he potted about. Instead, Luigi was looking into the hardest he'd ever seen, eyes that seemed to glow within a furnace to match the cold look of rage on his chiseled face. The shock made him bring drops into the carpet, spilling about $3,000 worth of the deep amber nectar. Yanni's body straightened, grew, bulked out, fell away from his face. Yanni realised without a doubt he was going to fully shoulder the burden his choices had wrought. Before him stood his own personal living nightmare made flesh, dressed from head to toe in black. Instantly he felt the fire rising within, straining for release. The Guardian stepped forward, making the barest of gestures with his fingers as he did so, and Luigi found himself lifted into the air by some unseen force. He was held motionless, helpless as a puppet, awaiting the commands of his master. Nodding at the screens, the Guardian said, "Allow me to introduce yourself. I'm Andrew, Guardian Lord of the Shadow Operation. Did you seriously think you'd get away with something like this?" Luigi stared defiantly back, fighting to overcome his shock at the Guardian's presence, and surprised at his lack of access to his own abilities. "Do what you want, bleep, kids present. At least the world's going to see you as the forge I knew you were." "Do what I want? I'd love to, but unfortunately my boss won't let me. Luigi stared impotently back at his nemesis as he strolled closer. Once he was standing in front of him, the Shadow Lord said, "And as for exposing us as frauds, well, I don't know why you think that. We never intimated we could be everywhere at once. The world's as sad enough place as it is without you adding to it. All we would try to do was to help people avoid as much heartbreak as possible." Pointing to the repeated bulletins on the screens, Andrew continued, "So once the world finds out that all this was a deliberate act of some sick and twisted nutjob who didn't care how many suffered, just so long as he could score some points, how do you think they're going to react to you, Luigi?" The points were fun. Luigi struggled in an attempt to gain his powers, to slap the guards in the face, do something to help prevent the building fury inside it. Helplessly he continued stewing as the guardian moved close, so close he was able to whisper in his ear. And when they find out you have abilities as well, can you imagine how they're going to react to that? You worthless, spineless, pathetic little man. I really wish they let me play with you before they throw you to the wolves. Bleep off, bleep. So kids, you don't scare me. Scare you? Oh no, Luigi, that's not my job. That's hers. The guardian gestured behind Luigi at the same moment he let go with his telekinesis. Although Luigi only dropped about a foot, he crumpled to the floor and became acutely aware that the strange throbbing sensation in his teeth was even more pronounced than before. Turning, Luigi was met with a vision of such barely contained power and fury that he immediately soiled his pants. Squatting beside him, Andrew said, "Allow me to introduce you to the head of our investigations branch. This is Victoria, the Lord Inquisitor. She is really pleased to meet you after all the suffering you've caused." Victoria stood in front of the TV screen, wreathed in a visible static discharge that blew the circuits of all the electrical equipment in the office and made the hairs of Luigi's arms and head stand on end. Her eyes, so similar to those of the Shadow Lord, intensified in luminosity, turning from grey to white hot. Luigi shielded his eyes and cowered on the floor in his own excellence. "What a fool I am," he thought. In reply to his thoughts, the Shadow Lord said, "Yes, Luigi, what a murderous, cowardly fool of a little man you are. I think the whole world's going to agree when they find out, yeah? That's what they're discussing."